The morning started like any other Tuesday at Riverside Electronics. Lisa arrived at work 15 minutes early, just as she had done every single day for the past 3 years. She loved her job as a customer service representative. Sure, it wasn't the most exciting work in the world, but it paid the bills and she genuinely enjoyed helping people find the right products for their needs. Lisa had always been the kind of person who took pride in doing things right. When customers came in frustrated because their phone wasn't working or confused about which cable they needed, she would patiently walk them through everything until they left with a smile. Her co-workers often joked that she had a gift for making even the grumpiest customers happy. That Tuesday morning, she noticed something different in the air. The new manager, Robert Chen, had been acting strange for the past few weeks. He would watch the employees more closely than usual, asking odd questions about procedures they had been following for years. Lisa tried not to think too much about it. Maybe he was just trying to learn how things worked. Robert had taken over as manager about 2 months ago when their previous manager retired. At first, everyone was excited to have fresh leadership. Robert seemed friendly enough during his introduction, talking about bringing new ideas and improving efficiency. But lately, something felt off about him. As Lisa organized her workspace and prepared for the day ahead, she noticed Robert standing near the cash register, looking through some paperwork. He glanced up when she walked by, giving her a look that made her feel uncomfortable. She couldn't quite put her finger on what it was, but something in his expression seemed cold. The store opened at 9, and the first few hours passed normally. Lisa helped several customers pick out phone cases, explained the differences between various chargers, and even helped an elderly gentleman set up his new tablet. She was in her element, doing what she did best. Around noon, things started to get busier. The lunch rush brought in office workers looking for quick electronics fixes and students shopping for accessories. Lisa was helping a young mother find a protective case for her toddler's tablet when she heard Robert's voice boom across the store. "Everyone stop what you're doing right now." The entire store went silent. Customers looked around nervously and Lisa's coworkers froze in place. Robert was standing behind the main counter with his arms crossed, his face red with anger. "We have a serious problem here," Robert announced, loudly enough for everyone to hear. $200 is missing from the register and I know exactly who took it. Lisa's heart started beating faster. She had no idea what was happening, but the way Robert was looking directly at her made her stomach drop. Surely he wasn't suggesting that she had anything to do with missing money. "Lisa, come here right now," Robert called out, pointing directly at her. The young mother Lisa had been helping looked confused and stepped back. All eyes in the store turned to Lisa as she slowly walked toward the counter, her legs feeling like jelly. She could feel her face burning with embarrassment as customers and co-workers stared at her. "I want you to empty your pockets and your purse," Robert demanded. "All of it. Right here, right now." "What? I don't understand," Lisa stammered. "What's this about?" "Don't play dumb with me," Robert snapped. "The money went missing during your shift and you've been acting suspicious all week. I've been watching you." Lisa felt like the room was spinning. This couldn't be happening. She had never stolen anything in her entire life. The thought of taking money from her workplace was completely foreign to her. "Robert, there must be some mistake," she said, her voice shaking. "I would never take money from the register. You know me. I've worked here for 3 years without any problems." "Empty your pockets now or I'm calling the police," Robert said firmly. Lisa looked around the store. Customers were whispering among themselves, some filming with their phones. Her co-workers looked shocked and uncomfortable. Nobody stepped forward to defend her. The silence was deafening. With trembling hands, Lisa began emptying her pockets. She pulled out her phone, some lip balm, a few receipts, and about $12 in change. Then she opened her purse and placed everything on the counter. Her wallet, keys, gum, tissues, and various other personal items. Robert examined everything carefully, counting her money twice. When he didn't find the missing $200, his expression didn't change. "You must have hidden it somewhere else," he said coldly. "Or maybe you already spent it?" "I didn't take any money," Lisa said, her voice breaking. Tears were starting to form in her eyes. "I swear I didn't do this. Please, you have to believe me." "I don't have to believe anything," Robert replied. "The evidence speaks for itself. You were the only one near the register when the money disappeared." Lisa tried to remember exactly what had happened that morning. She had been at the register several times helping customers, but so had other employees. Robert himself had been there too. How could he be so certain that she was responsible? "Can we please check the security cameras?" Lisa asked desperately. "They'll show what really happened." "I already checked them," Robert said with a dismissive wave. "The footage is unclear, but I know what I saw." Lisa felt her world crashing down around her. This was her job, her livelihood. She had bills to pay and responsibilities to take care of. How could this be happening to someone who had always tried to do the right thing? "I'm suspending you immediately," Robert announced. "Don't come back until we finish investigating this matter. And if we find out you're lying, you'll be fired and we'll press charges." The customers in the store continued to stare as Lisa gathered her belongings with shaking hands. She could hear people whispering, probably discussing whether they thought she was guilty or innocent. Some of them were regular customers who had known her for years, but even they looked uncertain now. As Lisa walked toward the exit, she felt completely humiliated. Her co-workers avoided making eye contact with her. The job that had once felt like a second home now felt hostile and unwelcoming. Robert followed her to the door as if he was worried she might try to steal something else on her way out. "Don't think this is over," he called after her as she stepped outside. "We're going to get to the bottom of this." Lisa sat in her car for several minutes before starting the engine. She couldn't stop crying. How was she going to explain this to her mother? How was she going to pay her bills if she lost her job? Most importantly, how was she going to prove her innocence when everyone seemed to have already decided she was guilty? The drive home felt like the longest 20 minutes of her life. Lisa kept replaying the morning's events in her mind, trying to figure out where everything had gone wrong. She had done nothing different than any other day, yet somehow she had become the target of a serious accusation. What Lisa didn't know was that this was just the beginning of a much larger story, one that would test her family's strength and ultimately reveal the truth in ways nobody could have imagined. When Lisa walked through the front door of her small apartment that afternoon, her mother Maria could tell immediately that something was terribly wrong. Lisa's eyes were red and puffy from crying, and she looked completely devastated. Maria had been folding laundry in the living room when she heard the key in the lock, but she wasn't expecting Lisa home for several hours. "Mija, what happened?" Maria asked, dropping the towel she was holding and rushing to her daughter's side. "Why are you home so early?" Lisa collapsed onto the couch and told her mother everything. She explained how Robert had accused her in front of everyone, how he had made her empty her pockets like a common criminal, and how he had suspended her without even giving her a chance to properly defend herself. With each detail, Maria's expression grew more concerned and angry. Maria had raised Lisa as a single mother after her husband passed away when Lisa was just 12 years old. She had worked multiple jobs to keep them afloat, sometimes cleaning offices at night after working at a grocery store during the day. Through all those difficult years, she had taught Lisa the importance of honesty, hard work, and treating others with respect. "This is not right," Maria said firmly, putting her arm around her daughter. "You would never steal money. I know my daughter." The next morning, Lisa called the store to speak with Robert about when she could return to work. She hoped that maybe he had realized his mistake overnight, or perhaps someone else had come forward with information about the missing money. Instead, Robert told her that the investigation was just beginning. "I'm going to interview every employee who was working yesterday," Robert said over the phone, "and I'm going to review all the security footage from the past week. If you're innocent like you claim, then you have nothing to worry about." But as the days passed, it became clear that Robert's investigation was not as thorough or fair as he had promised. Lisa's co-workers later told her that Robert had questioned them in a way that seemed designed to confirm his suspicions rather than discover the truth. He kept asking, "If I had noticed you acting strange lately," her friend and co-worker Jenny explained. "During a phone call, when I said no, he asked if I was sure. Then he asked if I had ever seen you near the register when you weren't supposed to be there. It was like he had already decided you were guilty and just wanted us to agree with him." Another co-worker, Mike, shared a similar experience. "Robert showed me the security footage from Tuesday morning," Mike said. "But he only showed me the parts where you were near the register. He didn't show me the times when other people were there too. When I asked about that, he said those parts weren't relevant to the investigation." Lisa felt sick hearing these stories. It seemed like Robert was conducting a witch hunt rather than a real investigation. She began to wonder if he had some personal reason for targeting her, but she couldn't think of what it might be. She had always been professional with him, even when his management style made her uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Word about the accusation had spread beyond the store. Lisa lived in a small town where news traveled fast, and soon people were talking about what had happened at Riverside Electronics. Some of her neighbors and acquaintances began treating her differently, crossing the street to avoid her or giving her strange looks at the grocery store. "I heard about what happened at your work," said Mrs. Patterson, an elderly woman who lived next door. "Such a shame. You seemed like such a nice girl." The way Mrs. Patterson said "seemed" made it clear that she now had doubts about Lisa's character. These interactions made Lisa feel even more isolated and depressed. She barely left her apartment except for necessities, afraid of facing more judgment from people who had already decided she was guilty. Maria watched her daughter sink deeper into despair with each passing day. Lisa had always been a happy, optimistic person, but now she spent most of her time in bed, refusing to eat properly or talk about the future. Maria knew she had to do something to help her daughter, but she wasn't sure what. After a week of watching Robert's so-called investigation unfold, Maria decided to visit the store herself. She wanted to speak with Robert face to face and get a better understanding of what evidence he thought he had against Lisa. She had met Robert briefly when he first started working there, but she didn't know him well. When Maria arrived at Riverside Electronics, she found Robert restocking shelves in the back of the store. He looked surprised to see her and not particularly pleased. "Mrs. Gonzalez," he said stiffly, "I wasn't expecting you." "I wanted to talk to you about my daughter," Maria said politely. "I understand there's been some kind of misunderstanding about missing money." "It's not a misunderstanding," Robert replied firmly. "Your daughter stole $200 from this store." "I have evidence." "What evidence?" Maria asked. "Lisa tells me you haven't shown her any proof." Robert seemed irritated by the question. "I don't have to share the details of an ongoing investigation with family members, but I can tell you that the money disappeared during her shift, and she was the only one who had the opportunity to take it." Maria studied Robert's face as he spoke. Something about his demeanor struck her as odd. He seemed defensive and nervous, not like someone who was confident in their evidence. She had learned to read people during her years working various customer service jobs, and Robert's body language didn't match his words. "Can I see the security footage?" Maria asked. "Absolutely not," Robert said quickly. "That's confidential store property. But surely if the footage proves Lisa is guilty, you wouldn't mind showing it to clear up any doubts." Robert's face reddened. "I don't have to prove anything to you. Your daughter is a thief, and when this investigation is complete, she'll be fired and possibly arrested." Maria left the store feeling more convinced than ever that something wasn't right about Robert's accusations. His refusal to share any details or evidence seemed suspicious, especially since he claimed to have clear proof of Lisa's guilt. That evening, Maria made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to sit back and watch her daughter's reputation and future be destroyed by what she was increasingly certain were false accusations. If Robert wasn't going to conduct a proper investigation, then Maria would do her own. She started by writing down everything Lisa had told her about that Tuesday morning, creating a timeline of events. Then she called some of Lisa's co-workers to ask them about their own experiences during Robert's interviews. She was careful not to seem like she was trying to coach them or influence their statements, but she wanted to understand how the investigation was being conducted. The more Maria learned, the more convinced she became that Robert was not interested in finding the truth. His questions seemed designed to build a case against Lisa, rather than discover what had actually happened to the missing money. Several employees mentioned that Robert had seemed particularly interested in times when Lisa was near the register, but he had shown little curiosity about other potential explanations for the missing money. Maria also began paying closer attention to Robert himself. She started visiting the store regularly, observing how he interacted with customers and employees. She noticed that he often seemed nervous and distracted, especially when handling money. He would look around frequently, as if he was worried about being watched. One afternoon, Maria witnessed something that made her very suspicious. She saw Robert handling a cash transaction with a customer, but instead of putting all the money in the register, he seemed to pocket some of the bills. It happened so quickly that Maria wasn't entirely sure what she had seen, but it made her wonder if Robert might be involved in the missing money himself. As Maria continued her quiet investigation, She realized that proving Lisa's innocence was going to require more than just her word against Robert's. She needed concrete evidence, and she was determined to find it no matter how long it took. While Lisa spent her days at home feeling hopeless and defeated, Maria was quietly becoming a detective. She had never thought of herself as particularly clever or resourceful, but watching her daughter suffer from false accusations had awakened something fierce inside her. Every morning, she would kiss Lisa goodbye and tell her she was going to run errands, but instead, she was conducting her own investigation. Maria's first step was to learn everything she could about the store's security system. She befriended Carlos, the maintenance worker who serviced the building where Riverside Electronics was located. Carlos had been working in the area for over 15 years and knew all the business owners and managers. That new manager seems different from the old one, Maria mentioned casually while Carlos was fixing a light fixture outside the store. The employees don't seem as happy anymore, Carlos nodded knowingly. I've noticed that too. Mr. Wilson, the old manager, was always friendly and treated his workers well. This Robert guy, he's got a different energy about him. Always seems worried about something. Through her conversations with Carlos, Maria learned that the security cameras in the store recorded everything, but only kept footage for 30 days before automatically deleting it. This meant that if she was going to find evidence to clear Lisa's name, she was running out of time. Maria also discovered something interesting about Robert's background. Carlos mentioned that Robert had been fired from his previous job at another electronics store across town. The official reason was restructuring, but Carlos had heard rumors that there were issues with inventory management and missing merchandise. This information made Maria even more suspicious. Why would someone who had problems at their previous job be so quick to accuse others of theft? It seemed like Robert might be trying to deflect attention from his own activities. Maria decided she needed to get a closer look at what was happening inside the store during regular business hours. She started shopping there frequently, sometimes buying small items she didn't really need just to have a reason to observe Robert's behavior. She would take her time browsing, watching how he handled transactions and interacted with the cash register. During one of these visits, Maria noticed something crucial. Robert had a habit of handling money in a way that seemed unusual. When customers paid in cash, he would often count the bills multiple times, sometimes holding them below the counter where they couldn't be easily seen. Maria had worked in retail herself many years ago, and this behavior struck her as suspicious. More importantly, Maria began paying attention to the store's layout and the security camera positions. She noticed that there was a blind spot near the register, where someone could potentially handle money without being clearly visible on camera. Robert seemed to know about this blind spot and would often position himself there when counting cash. Maria also started building relationships with Lisa's regular customers. Many of them had shopped at the store for years and knew Lisa well. When Maria mentioned that Lisa was temporarily away from work due to a misunderstanding, several customers expressed surprise and concern. "Lisa is the most honest person I've ever met," said Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who came in weekly to buy batteries for her hearing aids. "She once chased me into the parking lot because I had left a $20 bill on the counter. If she was dishonest, she could have just kept it." Another customer, a college student named Tom, shared a similar story. "Last month, Lisa noticed that I had been overcharged for a phone case because of a pricing error in the computer system. She spent 20 minutes figuring out how to give me a refund, even though I hadn't noticed the mistake. Someone who cares that much about a few dollars being wrong wouldn't steal $200. These testimonials were valuable, but Maria knew she needed more concrete evidence. She decided to focus on the security footage that Robert claimed showed Lisa's guilt. Even though Robert had refused to show her the footage, Maria wondered if there might be a way to see it through official channels. Maria visited the local police station and spoke with Officer Rodriguez, a community liaison she had met at neighborhood meetings. She explained the situation and asked if there was any way to ensure that the security footage would be properly reviewed by an impartial party. "Unfortunately, since no official report has been filed yet, we can't demand to see private security footage," Officer Rodriguez explained. "But if your daughter is eventually charged with theft, the footage would become evidence in a legal case and then it would be thoroughly examined." This conversation gave Maria an idea. If Robert was planning to press charges against Lisa, he would eventually have to present his evidence to the police. When that happened, The footage would be reviewed by people who had no reason to protect Robert or target Lisa. Maria decided to encourage Robert to file a police report, hoping that official scrutiny would reveal the truth. The next day, Maria returned to the store and asked to speak with Robert privately. She told him that Lisa's reputation was being damaged by the ongoing uncertainty, and that it would be better for everyone if the matter was resolved quickly through official channels. "If you're certain that Lisa is guilty, why haven't you filed a police report?" Maria asked. "Theft is a serious crime and the police should be involved." Robert seemed uncomfortable with this suggestion. "We prefer to handle these matters internally when possible," he said. "Filing a police report would create unnecessary publicity for the store. But if you have clear evidence, as you've claimed, then there shouldn't be any risk in involving the police," Maria pressed. "In fact, it would protect the store from accusations of unfair treatment." Robert promised to consider filing a report, but Maria could tell he was reluctant. This reluctance only increased her suspicions about his motives and the strength of his evidence. Meanwhile, Maria had been quietly documenting everything she had learned. She kept detailed notes about her observations of Robert's behavior, the testimonials from customers, and the timeline of events on the day the money went missing. She also started researching Robert's background more thoroughly. Through online searches and casual conversations with people in the community, Maria discovered that Robert had a history of financial problems. He had been late on rent payments at his previous apartment and had accumulated significant credit card debt. While these issues didn't prove he was guilty of theft, they suggested that he might have been motivated to steal money from the store. Maria also learned that Robert had lied about his experience when he applied for the manager position. He had claimed to have 5 years of retail management experience, but in reality, he had only been an assistant manager at one store for 2 years before being fired. This pattern of dishonesty made Maria even more suspicious of his accusations against Lisa. As the second week of Lisa's suspension came to an end, Maria felt she was getting closer to the truth. But she still needed concrete proof of Robert's guilt. She decided to take a more direct approach and began visiting the store during the busiest times of day, when Robert would be handling the most cash transactions. During one particularly busy afternoon, Maria witnessed something that confirmed her suspicions. She saw Robert serve a customer who paid $40 in cash for a phone charger that cost $25. Robert gave the customer $15 in change, but Maria noticed that he only put $25 into the register, keeping the extra $15 for himself. Maria's heart raced as she realized she had just witnessed Robert stealing money from the store in the exact same way he had accused Lisa of doing. The irony was not lost on her. Robert was guilty of the very crime he had blamed on her daughter, but witnessing the theft was only the first step. Maria now needed to figure out how to prove what she had seen and use that evidence to clear Lisa's name. She knew that accusing Robert without solid proof would only make things worse for Lisa, so she had to be extremely careful about her next moves. That evening, Maria sat down with Lisa and told her about everything she had discovered over the past 2 weeks. For the first time since the accusation, Lisa showed signs of hope and determination. "Mom, you've been amazing," Lisa said with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe you've been doing all this for me." "Of course, mija," Maria replied. "You're my daughter, and I know you're innocent. Now we just need to make sure everyone else knows it too." Maria knew that witnessing Robert steal money was not enough on its own. She needed more evidence and a plan to expose him in a way that would completely clear Lisa's name. After talking with Lisa about everything she had discovered, they decided that Maria should request a formal meeting with the store owner, Mr. Thompson, who had been traveling for business during most of the controversy. Mr. Thompson had owned Riverside Electronics for over 12 years and had a reputation as a fair and honest businessman. Lisa had always respected him, and Maria hoped that he would be willing to listen to her concerns about how the investigation had been handled. Maria called the store and asked when Mr. Thompson would be available for a meeting. When Robert answered the phone, he seemed surprised by her request but agreed to arrange a meeting for the following Friday afternoon. Maria could hear the nervousness in his voice, and she suspected he was worried about what she might say to his boss. Over the next few days, Maria prepared carefully for the meeting. She organized all of her notes and evidence into a clear timeline that showed the problems with Robert's investigation. She also reached out to the customers who had vouched for Lisa's honesty and asked if they would be willing to speak with Mr. Thompson if needed. Most importantly, Maria decided to take one more risk to gather additional evidence against Robert. She asked her nephew Danny, who was home from college for spring break, to help her with a plan. Danny was studying business and had taken several courses on retail management and loss prevention. What you're describing sounds like classic behavior of someone who is stealing from their own store, Danny told Maria after hearing about Robert's actions. The way he's handling money and his reluctance to involve the police are huge red flags. Danny suggested that Maria try to document Robert's theft more systematically. He taught her how to use her smartphone to discreetly record video, and they practiced until Maria felt comfortable with the technology. On Thursday afternoon, Maria visited the store during the lunch rush with her phone ready. She positioned herself near the greeting card display, which gave her a clear view of the register while making it look like she was browsing merchandise. When Robert began helping a customer who was making a large cash purchase, Maria started recording. The customer was buying a tablet that cost $180 and paid with $200 in cash. Maria watched through her phone's camera as Robert counted the money, gave the customer $20 in change, but only put $160 into the register. He had stolen $20 right in front of her, and she had it all on video. Maria's hands were shaking as she stopped recording, but she felt a surge of relief and determination. Finally, she had concrete proof of Robert's guilt. Now she just needed to present it effectively at tomorrow's meeting. Friday afternoon arrived, and Maria walked into Riverside Electronics feeling more confident than she had in weeks. She had dressed professionally for the meeting and carried a folder containing all of her evidence. When she asked for Mr. Thompson, Robert reluctantly led her to the small office in the back of the store. Mr. Thompson was a man in his 50s with graying hair and kind eyes. He stood up to shake Maria's hand and offered her a chair across from his desk. Robert remained standing near the door, his arms crossed and his expression tense. "Mrs. Gonzalez, I understand you wanted to discuss the situation with your daughter," Mr. Thompson began. "I have to say I was quite shocked to hear about the theft allegation when I returned from my business trip. Lisa has always been one of our most reliable employees." "That's exactly why I asked for this meeting," Maria replied. "I believe there has been a serious mistake, and I have evidence that Lisa is completely innocent." Robert shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Thompson, we've already been through all of this. The evidence clearly shows that Lisa stole the money." "What evidence?" Maria asked firmly. "You've refused to show Lisa or anyone else any actual proof of your accusations. I don't have to justify my investigation to family members," Robert said defensively. Mr. Thompson raised his hand to quiet both of them. "Let's approach this systematically. Robert, why don't you start by explaining what happened and what evidence you have?" Robert began recounting his version of events, claiming that Lisa had been acting suspiciously and that the money disappeared during her shift. He mentioned the security footage but admitted that it didn't clearly show the actual theft taking place. "If the footage doesn't show Lisa taking the money, then how can you be certain she's guilty?" Mr. Thompson asked. "She was the only one near the register at the time," Robert insisted. "It had to be her." "That's not true," Maria interjected. "According to the employees I've spoken with, several people were near the register that morning, including you." Robert's face reddened. "Are you accusing me of something?" "I'm not accusing you," Maria said calmly. "I'm presenting evidence." Maria opened her folder and began systematically presenting everything she had discovered. She showed Mr. Thompson the testimonials from customers who vouched for Lisa's honesty, the timeline of events that revealed holes in Robert's story, and the information about Robert's previous job and financial problems. "This is all just speculation and gossip," Robert protested. "None of this proves anything." "You're right," Maria agreed. "That's why I gathered some concrete evidence." Maria pulled out her smartphone and showed Mr. Thompson the video she had recorded the day before. Both men watched in stunned silence as the footage clearly showed Robert stealing $20 from the register. "This is from yesterday afternoon," Maria explained. "The customer paid $200 for a tablet that cost $180. You gave him $20 in change, but you only put $160 in the register. You stole $20. The color drained from Robert's face. That's not what happened. You must have misunderstood what you were seeing. The video is very clear. Mr. Thompson said quietly, his voice filled with disappointment and anger. "Robert, this is extremely serious." "It was a mistake," Robert stammered. "I must have miscounted or put the money in the wrong place." Maria wasn't finished. "I also have bank records showing that you deposited exactly $200 into your personal account the day after the money went missing from the store." This wasn't entirely true. Maria hadn't actually obtained bank records, which would have been illegal. But she had noticed Robert making a bank deposit that day, and she was gambling that her accusation would pressure him into confessing. The bluff worked. Robert's shoulders sagged and he looked defeated. "Mr. Thompson, I can explain everything." "I'm listening," Mr. Thompson said sternly. Robert began to break down, admitting that he had been taking small amounts of money from the register for several weeks. He claimed that his financial problems had driven him to desperation, and that he had panicked when he realized that the theft might be discovered during a routine audit. "When I took the $200 that Tuesday, I knew it was too much to go unnoticed," Robert confessed. "I needed someone to blame, and Lisa was an easy target because she was near the register that morning." Mr. Thompson listened to the confession with a mixture of disgust and sadness. "Robert, you've not only stolen from me, but you've also destroyed an innocent person's reputation and livelihood. This is beyond unacceptable." "I'm sorry," Robert said weakly. "I never meant for it to go this far. I just needed the money, and then everything spiraled out of control." Maria felt a mix of vindication and anger as she watched Robert finally admit the truth. All of the pain and humiliation that Lisa had endured over the past 2 weeks had been caused by this man's greed and cowardice. "Mrs. Gonzalez, I owe you and your daughter a tremendous apology," Mr. Thompson said. "This should never have happened, and I'm ashamed that it occurred in my store." "What matters now is that the truth is finally out," Maria replied. "But I want to make sure that Lisa's name is completely cleared and that she's treated fairly going forward." Mr. Thompson nodded emphatically. "Robert, you're fired immediately. I'm also calling the police to report the theft. Mrs. Gonzalez, please tell Lisa that she's welcome back to work whenever she's ready, with full back pay for the time she missed." As Robert was escorted from the store, Maria felt a deep sense of satisfaction and relief. The past 2 weeks had been difficult and exhausting, but her determination to protect her daughter had paid off. Lisa's innocence had been proven and the real thief had been exposed. But more than that, Maria had discovered something about herself. She had always seen herself as just a simple working mother, but this experience had shown her that she was capable of much more than she had ever imagined. When her family was threatened, she had found the strength and intelligence to fight back and win. When Maria arrived home that Friday evening, she found Lisa sitting at the kitchen table staring blankly at her laptop screen. For the past 2 weeks, Lisa had been half-heartedly searching for new jobs online, convinced that her reputation was ruined and that she would never be able to work in retail again. The sound of the front door opening barely registered with her. "Lisa," Maria called out, her voice filled with excitement and relief. "I have something to tell you." Lisa looked up with tired eyes, expecting more bad news or another delay in the investigation. But when she saw her mother's face, she knew immediately that something had changed. Maria was practically glowing with happiness and pride. "What happened?" Lisa asked, standing up from her chair. Maria sat down at the table and took her daughter's hands in hers. "Robert confessed. He admitted to stealing the money and framing you. You're completely cleared, and Mr. Thompson wants you back at work." For a moment, Lisa couldn't process what she was hearing. After 2 weeks of living in a nightmare, believing that her life and career were ruined, the sudden reversal seemed too good to be true. "Are you serious?" Lisa whispered, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Completely serious," Maria confirmed. "Robert has been fired, and Mr. Thompson is pressing charges against him. You're getting your job back with full pay for all the time you missed." Lisa broke down crying, but this time they were tears of relief and joy rather than despair and humiliation. She hugged her mother tightly, overwhelmed by gratitude for everything Maria had done to prove her innocence. "Mom, how did you do it?" Lisa asked through her tears. "How did you figure out what really happened?" Maria spent the next hour telling Lisa about her investigation, from her observations of Robert's suspicious behavior to the video evidence that had forced his confession. Lisa listened in amazement as her mother described weeks of careful detective work that had ultimately saved her reputation and career. "I can't believe you did all of that for me." Lisa said. "You're incredible." "You're my daughter," Maria replied simply. "I would do anything to protect you." The next Monday morning, Lisa returned to Riverside Electronics for the first time since her suspension. She was nervous about facing her coworkers and customers, wondering how they would react after everything that had happened. But as soon as she walked through the door, she was greeted with smiles and hugs from her colleagues. "Lisa, we're so glad you're back," said Jenny, running over to embrace her friend. "We always knew you were innocent. Robert never should have accused you." Mike nodded in agreement. "That whole investigation was a joke. We all knew something was fishy about the way Robert was handling things." Mr. Thompson emerged from his office and approached Lisa with a warm smile and an outstretched hand. "Lisa, welcome back. I want to personally apologize for what you went through. This should never have happened, and I take full responsibility for not being here to prevent it." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Lisa replied. "I'm just grateful that the truth finally came out." "Actually, I have some good news for you," Mr. Thompson continued. "I've been thinking about how to make up for the injustice you suffered, and I've decided to promote you to assistant manager. You've shown incredible grace under pressure, and your mother's investigation proved that you have the kind of integrity and intelligence that would make you an excellent leader." Lisa was stunned. Not only was she getting her job back, but she was being promoted to a position she had dreamed about for years. The nightmare that had begun 2 weeks ago was turning into the best thing that had ever happened to her career. Throughout the day, regular customers stopped by to welcome Lisa back and express their support. Mrs. Chen brought flowers and told Lisa how much she had missed her helpful service. Tom, the college student, said he had been shopping at a competitor's store because he didn't trust the way Riverside Electronics had treated Lisa. "I'm so glad you're back," Tom said. "This place wasn't the same without you." Word of Robert's confession and Lisa's vindication spread quickly through the small town. People who had previously avoided Lisa or treated her with suspicion now approached her with apologies and expressions of support. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor who had made the hurtful comment about Lisa seeming like a nice girl, brought over a homemade apple pie as an apology. "I'm sorry I doubted you, dear," Mrs. Patterson said. "I should have known better. Your mother raised you right." The local newspaper even ran a small story about the case, focusing on how a mother's determination had exposed the truth and cleared her daughter's name. The article portrayed Maria as a hero who had refused to accept injustice and had fought tirelessly to protect her family. 2 weeks after Robert's confession, Lisa received news that he had been formally charged with theft and fraud. The police investigation had revealed that Robert had stolen over $800 from the store during his 2 months as manager, taking small amounts regularly and then the larger sum that had triggered the investigation. During the investigation, police also discovered that Robert had similar problems at his previous job, where inventory discrepancies had led to his termination. The pattern of behavior showed that Robert was a habitual thief who had made a career of stealing from his employers and blaming others when possible. "I'm glad he's facing real consequences," Lisa told her mother as they read about Robert's charges in the newspaper. "What he did to me was terrible, but I'm sure I wasn't his only victim." The experience had changed both Lisa and Maria in profound ways. Lisa had learned that she was stronger than she had ever imagined, able to endure false accusations and public humiliation while maintaining her dignity and integrity. She had also gained a deeper appreciation for her mother's love and determination. For Maria, the experience had revealed capabilities she never knew she possessed. Her careful investigation and strategic thinking had not only cleared her daughter's name, but had also exposed a criminal who might have continued stealing from the store and framing innocent employees. She had proven to herself and others that she was far more resourceful and intelligent than she had ever believed. The relationship between mother and daughter had always been strong, but the ordeal had brought them even closer together. They had faced a serious crisis as a team, and their mutual support and determination had carried them through to victory. 6 months later, Lisa was thriving in her new role as assistant manager. She had implemented new procedures to prevent theft and had created a more positive work environment for all employees. Mr. Thompson frequently praised her leadership skills and had hinted that she might be considered for the store manager position when he eventually retired. Maria had also benefited from the experience in unexpected ways. Her successful investigation had impressed people in the community, and she had been approached about working as a private investigator or security consultant. While she hadn't made any career changes yet, the offers had boosted her confidence and shown her that she had valuable skills that could be applied in many different ways. The story of Lisa's false accusation and Maria's investigation had become something of a local legend, inspiring other people to stand up for themselves and their loved ones when faced with injustice. Several people had approached Maria for advice when they encountered similar problems, and she had been happy to share what she had learned about conducting investigations and gathering evidence. Looking back on the ordeal, both women agreed that while it had been one of the most difficult periods of their lives, it had also been transformative in positive ways. They had discovered their own strength and resilience, deepened their bond with each other, and proven that truth and justice could prevail when people were willing to fight for them. The experience had also taught them valuable lessons about the importance of not judging others too quickly and the danger of accepting accusations without proper evidence. They had both been guilty of assuming that authority figures like managers and investigators were always fair and honest. But Robert's actions had shown them that power could be abused and that ordinary people sometimes needed to take action to protect themselves and others. Most importantly, the story had demonstrated the incredible power of a mother's love and determination. When her daughter was threatened by false accusations and injustice, Maria had transformed from a quiet working mother into a fierce advocate and skilled investigator. Her refusal to accept the situation and her methodical approach to uncovering the truth had not only saved Lisa's career but had also exposed a criminal and prevented future victims. The manager had accused her daughter, but in the end, it was the mother who had left everyone speechless with her courage, intelligence, and unwavering dedication to justice.